There is a quiet moment most people know but rarely talk about. It's not loud. It doesn't come with confrontation or obvious conflict. It happens in subtle ways. Someone interrupts you mid-sentence as if your words carry no weight. Someone dismisses your idea without even considering it. Someone speaks over you, ignores you, or treats your presence as optional. And in that moment, something shifts inside you. You may not react, you may stay silent, but internally there's tension, a mix of confusion, frustration, and a quiet question that lingers long after the moment has passed. Why did they treat me like that? What makes it more unsettling is that these moments are rarely isolated. They repeat. Different people, different situations, but the same pattern. And the deeper truth is uncomfortable but necessary to face. Disrespect is rarely random. It is not always intentional, but it is often allowed, reinforced, sometimes even invited without you realizing it. Because human behavior follows patterns. People are constantly, subconsciously reading signals. Not just what you say, but how you carry yourself, what you tolerate, and what you silently accept. And over time, they adjust their behavior accordingly. People don't treat you based on who you are in your mind. They treat you based on what they believe you will tolerate. This is where Stoic philosophy offers something different. It does not teach you how to demand respect. It teaches you how to become the kind of person whose presence makes disrespect difficult. Because in Stoicism, respect is not something you chase, it is something others recognize. Marcus Aurelius wrote about focusing only on what is within your control. And if you look closely, the way others behave toward you is not fully within your control. But what is within your control is far more powerful. Your reactions, your boundaries, your standards, and your sense of self.
The mistake most people make is believing that respect comes from external validation, from being liked, approved of, or accepted. But the more dependent you are on approval, the more you weaken your position. Because when you need others to validate you, you begin to adjust yourself to avoid losing that validation. And in doing so, you slowly erode your own authority. People can sense this, even if they don't consciously think about it. They notice hesitation. They notice when you over-explain. They notice when you tolerate things you shouldn't. And without realizing it, they begin to treat you accordingly. But there is another way to move through the world. A quieter way, a more stable way. It is built on 3 simple but powerful principles: control over yourself, detachment from the need for approval, and clarity in your boundaries. When these 3 come together, something changes. You stop performing for respect and begin embodying it. This is what the Stoics understood deeply. Respect is not built in a single moment. It is built in patterns, in consistency, in how you show up again and again, regardless of who is watching. And the first place this becomes visible is in how you respond when someone disrespects you. Most people react immediately. There is an urge to correct, defend, or push back. Anger rises, words come quickly, the moment becomes emotional. But in that reaction, something is revealed. Not strength, but vulnerability. Because emotional reactions signal that something external has power over your internal state. Epictetus taught that it is not events that disturb us, but our judgment about them. And when someone disrespects you, the event itself is neutral. It is your interpretation, your emotional attachment that gives it weight. Imagine this instead.
Someone makes a dismissive comment toward you in a meeting. Others are present. The moment could easily escalate. But you don't react. You don't rush to defend yourself. You remain calm. You continue speaking, or you pause and let the silence sit. In that silence, something unexpected happens. The other person becomes uncertain. The dynamic shifts. Because calmness in the face of disrespect is not weakness, it is control. And control creates authority. This leads to another subtle but powerful behavior that often goes unnoticed: the habit of explaining yourself too much. Think about how often people feel the need to justify their decisions, to add extra reasons, to soften their stance, to make sure everyone understands why they did what they did. It often comes from a desire to be seen as reasonable, to avoid conflict, to maintain approval. But in reality, over-explaining sends a different message. It suggests uncertainty. It signals that you are seeking validation for your choices. The Stoics valued simplicity, clarity, directness. If something is true, it does not need excessive explanation. Consider a simple moment. You decline an invitation. Instead of saying, "I can't make it," you begin adding reasons. You explain your schedule, your fatigue, your obligations. But the more you explain, the more you invite negotiation, and the more you invite others to question your decision. There is strength in saying less, but meaning it fully. When your words are clear and final, people begin to perceive you differently, not as someone who needs approval, but as someone who trusts their own judgment. And this naturally connects to something even deeper: boundaries. Most people don't struggle with knowing what they dislike. They struggle with enforcing it. They tolerate interruptions. They accept behavior that makes them uncomfortable. They allow others to overstep again and again. Not because they agree with it, but because they don't want to create tension. But every time you tolerate what you internally reject, you send a signal. You teach people how to treat you. And once a pattern is established, it repeats. The Stoic perspective is clear. Protecting your time, your energy, and your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. Setting a boundary does not require aggression. It does not require emotion. It requires clarity. A calm, direct statement, a consistent response. For example, someone repeatedly interrupts you. Instead of ignoring it or reacting emotionally, you simply say, "Let me finish." No anger, no apology, just clarity. And when that clarity is consistent, behavior begins to change. Because boundaries are not about controlling others, they are about defining yourself. And this brings us to a deeper realization that many people resist: the need to be liked. It seems harmless, even positive, but beneath it lies a quiet dependency. When you want to be liked by everyone, you begin to adjust yourself constantly. You soften your opinions. You avoid disagreement. You prioritize harmony over honesty. And in doing so, you slowly disconnect from your own values. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to focus not on being admired, but on being good, on living with integrity regardless of how others respond. Because when you are grounded in your values, you no longer need universal approval.
And something interesting happens. Some people may not like you, but they will respect you. Because respect is not built on agreement, it is built on consistency and authenticity. This also changes how you communicate. Most people speak too much, not because they have more to say, but because they are uncomfortable with silence. They fill gaps, they repeat themselves, they dilute their own message. But the Stoics understood the power of measured speech. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. When you pause, people listen more closely. Imagine two people in a conversation. One speaks constantly, trying to prove their point. The other listens, observes, and speaks only when necessary. Who appears more grounded, more confident? Silence is often misunderstood. It is not emptiness, it is presence. And presence commands attention without effort. But even with all of this, there will be moments when respect is simply not mutual. Environments where no matter how you behave, the pattern remains the same. And this is where one of the most difficult Stoic lessons appears: knowing when to walk away. Many people stay too long in situations that diminish them, friendships that lack reciprocity, work environments that undervalue them. They stay out of habit, out of fear, out of hope that things will change. But every moment you remain in a space that disrespects you, you reinforce that reality. The Stoics practiced detachment, not as indifference, but as clarity. They understood that your presence is not an obligation, it is a choice.
And when you choose to remove yourself from what does not align with your standards, you reclaim your power. Walking away is not defeat, it is alignment. It is the quiet statement that your standards are not negotiable. And all of this leads to the most important realization of all. You cannot expect external respect if it is not built internally. The way others treat you is often a reflection of how you treat yourself. If you doubt your own worth, tolerate your own inconsistencies, or neglect your own standards, it becomes visible. Not through words, but through behavior. The Stoics believed that character is built in small, daily actions, in discipline, in self-respect. And when that internal foundation is strong, it changes everything. You no longer seek respect, you embody it. And when you embody it, others recognize it. Not because you demanded it, but because it becomes undeniable. What begins to form is something subtle but powerful. A presence. Not loud, not aggressive, not performative, but steady, calm, unshaken. A presence that does not chase attention, yet naturally holds it. This is what can be called silent authority. It is built over time, through consistency, through discipline, through alignment between who you are and how you act. And once it is established, it speaks before you do. People sense it. In the way you respond, in the way you speak, in what you tolerate and what you don't.
And the truth is, this is not about changing others. It is about becoming someone who no longer invites what you once tolerated. So the question becomes simple. Where in your life are you still negotiating your worth? Where are you reacting instead of remaining composed? Where are you explaining instead of standing firm? Where are you tolerating what you know you shouldn't? These are not questions meant to criticize, but to bring awareness, because awareness is where change begins. And once you begin to shift internally, something remarkable happens. The world around you begins to respond differently. Not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually, subtly, consistently, until one day you realize that the patterns have changed, not because you forced them to, but because you no longer allow what you once did. And if there is one thing to take from all of this, it is this. Respect is not a reward you earn from others. It is a standard you set within yourself. And once that standard is clear, the world adjusts around it. If this made you reflect, take a moment to consider which of these principles you need to apply most right now. And if you found value in this, you can support the channel by liking the video, sharing it with someone who might need it, and subscribing for more content like this. Because the journey towards self-mastery is not quick, but it is always worth it.